Saturday.
Happy Saturday. All right. Let me see if I can get my volume up here to make sure that everybody can hear us over here on Rumble. And I'm going to get started by, and this is going to be kind of an open forum. So if you guys want to come up and participate, if you've had a chance to look over, I'd love to hear Mayor Sarge up here helping out. Renee, you guys all just grab a mic if you've been able to find anything. I want to start off with the New York Post article. So let me get this up on the screen. And I'm going to make sure that it's... Bridget, are you up on Rumble?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see the screen?
Hang on. I've got a 15-second delay.
Okay.
So not yet. No, I don't.
Okay. So I don't know why it's not sharing it. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, let me click this other thing. There we go. That should have done it. All right. I had to click another button. Okay. So here, I'm going to go ahead and start reading it. The radicalized son of a CIA director was killed last year while allegedly, and let me get the date of the article. Sorry about that. It's dated April 25th, 2025. So just a recent article from the Post that says a radicalized son of a CIA director was killed last year while allegedly fighting for Russia in Ukraine, according to a new investigation. Now, I'm going to propose to you that this guy was not fighting for Russia. And I'm going to try to articulate why I come to that conclusion as we go through this. Michael Alexander Gloss, a 21-year-old son of a CIA deputy director for digital innovation, Julianne Galina Gloss, and a Navy veteran father, was killed on the front lines after enlisting in Russian army, according to a lengthy investigation by an independent Russian outlet called Important Stories. His death was confirmed by the Post Friday by his father, Larry Goss, who said his son suffered from mental illness and a fixation on water purification. That's not odd at all. One of the manifestations of his mental illness was grandiosity, Larry Goss explained. He always cared about the environment. He always wanted to take care of those disadvantaged, less able, which is, again, kind of an oxymoron. You wouldn't be fighting for Russia in the narrative that has been created around the Ukrainian-Russian, because obviously the narrative is that Ukrainian is the disadvantaged side, if you will, fighting the big giant Russia. In Michael's thinking, which I now conclude largely as a function of some text exchange he had with comrades, I love that they use that word. Again, you have to pay attention to every word that they use, because they're reinforcing a narrative that he was on Russia's side. You wouldn't normally call Russians comrades anymore, because we're not in the Soviet Union. Before his demise, he thought the best way of realizing his dreams of water purification would be to be a citizen of Russia. Again, that makes no sense. And the quickest way to get there, the quickest way to Russian citizenship, would be through serving basically in their military. Larry Gloss was under the impression that his son would not be in conflict, but rather serving in a supporting unit. Gloss's obituary said his fiercely beautiful life was taken from us during his travels overseas. Again, I don't think that that's an accurate depiction if he was fighting in a war. April 4th, 2024 is the date that he supposedly died, without detailing exactly how. And it has a picture here of his mom, who is the CIA's deputy director for digital innovation, basically the propaganda arm. With his noble heart and warrior spirit, Michael was forging his own hero's journey when he was tragically killed in Eastern Europe. The obituary said. Before leaving on his travels, Gloss shared images of him giving the middle finger to the White House and also video of a burning flag. Border Service data shows that he crossed into Russia from Georgia in August of 2023. That in and of itself is very important because we know that there is large CIA presence in Georgia because they were actively working to destabilize Georgia during the same time frame. August 2023, sending photos of his adventures in a group chat to friends in the Rainbow Family, a loose-knit counterculture hippie group, according to Important Stories. That September, Gloss appeared in Russia's Unified Medical Information and Analytical System of Moscow, where his address was listed as a medical examination room at an army contract recruitment point on some street. The same address given to foreign mercenaries who arrive in Moscow to join Russian forces in the Ukrainian conflict, according to reports. Now, I'm not doubting that he did any of this stuff. What I'm doubting is the motive behind it. A selfie snapped by a Nepalese volunteer in the Avant-Garde Training Center in Moscow appears to show Gloss in military fatigues with a red bandana on his head. A video posted by another Nepalese man shows Michael's shaved head at the facility posing with fellow soldiers. Michael's training group, which consisted mainly of Nepalese nationals, was eventually bused to their military unit, which was an airborne regiment. And the video from the bus ride appears to show Gloss wearing his headdress. Now, he's not in fatigues there. He's in a blue and white striped shirt. And also, what raised my suspicion is he's with Nepal nationals. Now, we already know from other research that we've done that the CIA had a huge presence in Nepal because Nepal is where they pulled out the Uyghurs to train them at terrorist training camps to go back into China and attack China. So, every piece of this journey, when I was reading through this, I was like, what the hell is going on? After arriving at the training unit, Gloss made an account of the Russian social media website, whatever the name of that one is, ODNOK Losniki, when his profile photo shows him lying down with the red bandana on a bunk bed that looks identical to those seen in videos posted by the other Nepalese comrades, according to the investigation. A fellow soldier in that unit who knew Michael well said the American had his own vision of how he could be useful at the front. He studied construction and engineering in college, so all of his thoughts were connected to inventions and innovations. The soldier who went by Peter told Important Stories. So this is a picture of him with his fist, like the typical stereotypical Russian Soviet fist in the air portrait with a walking stick. And supposedly that was taken, another big red flag, in Turkey before he left to go to Russia. So again, this is a little crazy. He has now been to Georgia. He's hanging out with Nepal people, and he was in Turkey. And what is Turkey? Home to the largest contingent of Operation Gladio that was ever put together. And, a guy without a job who has two parents, and I will get to his dad in a minute, that basically have intelligence backgrounds, is just more than a little fishy to me. Okay, let's go on. Gloss confirmed to his Rainbow family friends that he was in Russia on December 19th, but made no mention of his military activity after speaking in the group chat for 2 months. So he's there supposedly having enlisted in the Russian military for 2 months, and this group chat that he's in with all of his close friends, he doesn't even mention that he's in the military. That same month, Peter said Gloss was sent to the assault units. Part of the 137th Regiment were deployed northwest of Soledar in the Donbass region at the time, according to important stories. Gloss last logged into Telegram on March 14th, 2024, 2 weeks before they went on their offensive in the Ukrainian positions. And I guess that's him in a rainbow shirt holding a flag saying you can't, or a sign saying you can't ban abortions. You can only ban safe abortions. Okay. While the exact circumstances of Michael's death are unknown, it was on the same day as the 106th Division, that includes Gloss's regiment, posted on Telegram that its paratroopers were continuing their offensive push in Donbass in the face of poor conditions and unfavorable positions. Julianne Galina Gloss was appointed as the CIA's deputy director for digital innovation in February 2024, just weeks before her son's death. She graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1992 and became the first female commander of the Academy's Cadet Corps. She spent the next 30 years working in intelligence and technology, both in the military and in civil service. Her husband and Michael's father, Larry Gloss, served 15 years in the Navy and was awarded an Air Combat Medal for his actions in Desert Storm in early 1990s. He spent his career in cybersecurity. Now, let me just tell you how odd it is that someone serves 15 years in the Navy. That is odd, unless he was medically retired. That's very odd. Michael Gloss's funeral wasn't until December 21st, 2024. So like almost a year later. So he was killed in, stop attacking. Where'd Bridget go? There you are. All right. I got you back, Bridget. A Rainbow family text sent by a man who had talked to Gloss's sister said his family was not made aware of his death until 2 months before that. They were told that he died in Ukraine. We do not know if he participated in the war. They did not provide details. The CIA said in a statement, Julianne Galina and her family suffered an unimaginable personal tragedy in the spring of 2024 when her son, Michael Gloss, who struggled with mental health issues, died while fighting in the conflict in Ukraine. CIA considers Michael's passing to be a private matter for the Gloss family, not a national security issue. The entire CIA family is heartbroken for their loss. Julianne and her husband shared that, quote, "We adored our son and grieve his loss every moment. We appreciate privacy at this difficult time." All right. So, very, very interesting that uh, all of that is very interesting for all of the reasons I just pointed out. And then in the comments here, which I always check out just to see if somebody drops some additional information, I didn't see anything that stuck out to me. So if you guys did, I'd appreciate. Somebody did note that she does not show up in Wikipedia at all, which is very weird for a senior CIA person who has a career-long intelligence background. Yes and no. I mean, if they're doing clandestine things, you won't find anything on them. But for there not to be something on her is another interesting tidbit of information. Okay, so let's get to the dad. Now we know a little bit about her. And the dad I found, let's see, share this tab instead. All right. Can you see the one now? Yeah, SIS. Okay. So this is EverCommerce. This is, it says EverCommerce appoints Larry Gloss as president of Security Information Systems. The veteran public sector leader will drive a new phase of growth. This was announced on May 2024. Okay, so this is his dad. And this is right around the time his son dies, within days, actually. EverCommerce announced the appointment of Larry Gloss as president of Security Information Systems and head of its public sector, meaning he's going to deal with the government. EverCommerce, of EverCommerce. Larry is an accomplished sales executive and U.S. Navy veteran who comes to EverCommerce and SIS, part of EverCommerce, security and alarm solutions, with a successful track record of leading global public sector growth and delivering products and services that anticipate and exceed customers' needs. Larry is the right leader to navigate this new phase of growth, said the general manager of EverCommerce Security and Alarm. Larry's knowledge and experience will be invaluable for the continued growth and success of SIS and help our public sector customers leverage technology to modernize their security operations through alarm monitoring and responding effectively to threats. Larry arrives at EverCommerce with decades of experience leading global public sector growth. He has a deep understanding of cybersecurity and physical security industries and the unique needs and challenges of public sector organizations. His hire demonstrates EverCommerce's strategic commitment to provide mission-critical alarm monitoring capabilities and mission expertise in the public sector. I'm honored to join this is him. I'm honored to join an organization with alarm monitoring software, keep secure some of the most sensitive government and military sites around the world. I believe in this product, the SIS team and mission. I am committed to bringing value to SIS customers by helping them meet challenges of the ever-changing technology and security landscape. Larry served in the U.S. Navy for more than 15 years and since then has dedicated his career to providing transformative technology solutions to public sector, including government, defense, and intelligence community clients. Prior to joining EverCommerce, he served as the Vice President, Global Public Sector at Internos, Inc., and vice president and general manager of public sector for LILT, L-I-T. He built the public sector arm of the cybersecurity and threat detection buildup of Blue Vector. Earlier in his career, he was a senior director at Oracle and an executive at IBM for 10 years. Now, of course, what caught my attention immediately is IBM, as we just revealed on Alpha Warrior Show, is considered the Snow White of the supercomputers. And Oracle was one of the dwarfs. So it was weird that I ran across this story right after we had done that research. So, anybody want to grab a mic and come up and I don't know if anybody had a chance to go over that article when I first posted it, but I'd be interested in people's thoughts as it relates to this. Bridget, you got anything? Are you there? Can you guys hear me? Bridget. There's Renee. Let me take Bridget down and see if I can get her back up here. Go ahead, Renee.
Hey, Colonel. Hey, everybody. Apologies. I did read the article and I did check into some stuff, but I'm working all weekend, so I wasn't able to do the deep digging that I was hoping for, so I'm here for moral support. But I will just share what I read, and yeah, I even looked into his Instagram account, and it's very suspicious, just like you're saying, on all different angles. I mean, it's kind of like an ambrosia salad all over the place. I mean, it's a lot of things just hanging. The fact that I kind of feel sorry for this kid if it's truth that is being published here, because he is all over the place, like borderline personality, MK Ultra, groomed / indoctrinated to the hilt, it seems. But to even be allowed to go in service for the Russians and them not doing a background check on his parents. I mean, if I were Russia, I'd be like, whoa, big red flag. That's just kind of my opinion.
Yeah.
Everything I went over.
Right. There's nothing about the story that makes any sense. Yeah. Russia would not allow people to embed in their military with ties to the CIA and this Navy guy who has his job literally is the security for I mean, in this new job. Obviously he didn't have the job before his son was killed, but he had jobs similar to this. I looked at some of the companies. As a matter of fact, this other company that he worked for in Turnos basically does all of the same thing. It's cybersecurity, the public facing, did business with all the Five Eyes countries. If you look it up, the people that are involved in these companies all have intelligence backgrounds. So very, very suspicious on the dad side. And that's not even to say the mom's just front and center CIA. So I find none of it makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the first digs that I wanted to do, I only found the Wikipedia there wasn't a whole lot, but I was just curious of this iStories publication and who these people are behind it. Is it somehow, currently you've taught us so incredibly much, and there's just so many angles to look into. A family, it's all in the family, people in military and their children and intelligence, and it can all be connected. And then you got to look at the propaganda side of it. And is this iStories, they do have Telegram, they're on Twitter. One of it's a guy and a girl that created it. He had involvement in the Panama Papers, and supposedly his grandfather was in prison for a long time for something. So what about his family? There's so many angles to go after. It's a big dig, of being thorough in investigating and the digging.
Yeah. Anybody else want to come up? I find not one single thing about this story that's coherent. It reminded me, quite frankly, when I started reading where all this kid who has no job and no money, how's he traveling around? How is he getting to Georgia? How is he getting to Turkey? How did he get to Russia? You allow, as a parent, they constantly, repeatedly in that article and in other articles, Bridget just sent me another one, talk about he's mentally ill. You let your mentally ill son go to Georgia by himself? You let your mentally ill son go to Turkey by himself? You let your mentally ill son go to Russia by himself? How did he get in Russia? You have to have permits. It is hard. Ask Tucker Carlson. He talks about how hard it is to get into Russia. How do you get into Russia? Again, not a single piece of this story makes any sense. What really makes sense, if you go from a keep it simple philosophy, is that he was over there working because he obviously went to college, so he's not like, an 18-year-old. He went over there to Ukraine, and was sent to these other locations like Georgia and possibly as just like the guy we just saw down in Florida that was the second Trump assassination attempt person. Remember, he had traveled to all of these exact same places. He had went to the stands, he had went to Georgia, he had went to Turkey, and he had went to Ukraine. And now we have another guy that fits that exact same pattern. Only now, because this guy got killed, we're going to pass him off as mentally ill. So I thought it was fascinating looking at all of this stuff now through our informed the way the world actually works, not the way they tell us that it works. And I don't think any part of that story is true.
No, but what's remarkable, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well, I could hear you. You just went out again. Let me bring you back up one more time. I don't know why they like messing with our spaces so much. Did you get there you go.
Okay, I'll just have to talk quick before it throws me out again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Then, the interesting part is that every single article covers the exact same talking points, which tells you that it's a narrative that they're pushing step by step. I mean, there's no variation in any of the articles. There's no elaboration.
So the bottom line is there apparently was one source for the information. And that's this important stories outlet. Now, just because it says that it's a Russian outlet, because Russia actually does have freedom of the press, that it doesn't mean that it's an officially approved Russian narrative. But let me show you this. Here's some of the pictures, and this is why I think it's over the top crazy. This is let's see. This is pictures that he has posted on the internet. It has a picture of him with the hammer and sickle. Now, come on, nobody does that. This is the picture of him shooting his middle finger at the Capitol. And it's got pictures of him with other people. But again, very, very interesting. Obviously, big Auburn fans as far as the family goes. So hold on. Bridget just sent me the obituary. That ought to be very interesting. Let me wait till that comes up. I don't know why it's taken so long. Hey, cousin It.
Hey, so just so you're aware, that article that is the Russian Independent, whatever the hell it's called, that story didn't actually originate there. It originated from a Ukrainian Telegram channel. So that might help suss out the bullshit.
So you're saying that this hold on a minute. Let me get back to the actual article. This thing called Important Stories. So it says the Post credits an independent Russian outlet called Important Stories.
Right.
You're
But
saying
I don't think they got it from there, because the first it appeared was on a Ukrainian Telegram channel.
Okay, so
independent from everything else, it appeared on a Ukrainian Telegram channel.
Okay.
I think he was serving in Ukraine. I don't think he was serving with any Russian troops.
That's
my own opinion, worth nothing. I can't find that he was ever with a Russian troop. I don't see it happening. I see him very, very clearly working with the Ukrainians. So, but I also found that in his obituary, there was an interesting list of charities that at the bottom of the page that I had sent just now to Bridget, that he was involved with a lot of overseas charities. Like one was Haitian, I think, or something like that, or Honduras. Yeah, Honduras.
And International Relief and Refugee for the Lutheran World Relief.
Yes, exactly. So he wasn't serving in Russia. I'm sorry. I'm calling bullshit on that.
So, yeah, and interestingly enough, what we have now found, and I just, hey, the book that we're reviewing, we're about to get to the chapter, not that we don't already know, about the infiltration of ministries in the CIA, that kind of just adds meat to that whole thing, that a lot of these like Palmetto International Ministries home construction in Honduras, I don't know anything about that. What I do know is that the CIA routinely uses these types of charities to infiltrate in order, and that does not mean that the charity itself is corrupt. It means that the CIA uses those charities in order to gain access to countries that they want to destabilize. And so you're right.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's no different than the Peace Corps or, any of those, bullshit kind of, oh, hey, we're coming and we only mean to bring good. It may start out that way, but as soon as their foot's in the door, they're going to be infiltrated by people who don't mean good.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So donate to these things in lieu of flowers. And yeah, very interesting. Okay. Michael was fascinated by the hero's journey and loved J.R.R. Tolkien and his depiction of fellowship among heroes. Huh. Okay. Yeah. This is just crazy. I find the part about it originating on a Ukrainian Telegram channel just another nail in the coffin of what I originally looking at his travel history on how he ended up where he ended up, because it mirrors that second assassination guy down in South Florida. He went to all of those same countries. So very interesting.
Right. And another thing too, just to, and again, my own opinion worth nothing. If this guy were actually legitimate, he would have shown up somewhere on the Russian channels, somewhere. I follow a whole bunch of Russian channels over there. Some are just gossipy. Some are, Russian news. And I follow the chats as well. And nobody is talking about him. None. Zero, nobody. And if he died for the cause, let's say, somebody would have brought him up. There hasn't been a peep, and there's never been a peep, because I would have actually noticed it, because this supposedly happened back in April. You would notice, if you see on the Russian channels, that an American died in service of Russia. And there have been Americans that have died. But not necessarily for serving Russia, but for journalism. There's been, I think, 2 of them that have died. And those people were mentioned. This kid, silence, not a word. All of a sudden, it just started appearing the middle of last week, maybe, on the Ukrainian Telegram. So I kind of just sloughed it off as bullshit, because there's... oh gosh, I can't even remember. There's one that does the foreign mercenaries, and he was the one. You could know that. Do you remember that ranger that was killed a while back? The channel that does that, I think, had him, but that was it. And it is a Russian channel, but he didn't. He was just like, oh, an American died.
Yeah. So, and it also says that he was a radicalized son of a CIA director. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that's extremely concerning for a lot of different reasons. But again, I need somebody, like I'm 5 years old, to explain to me how this guy, who's mentally ill, according to his parents, gets to travel to the Georgia, Turkey, and Russia. Can anybody do that for me? No.
Well, he may have been in Russia on a visa or something, but he certainly, I don't think, served for Russia.
Right, but how did he get there? How did he get the money? How did he get State Department clearance? Again, the process to travel to Russia is extremely difficult, and you have to have a visa to get in the country. So you're telling me that the State Department, our State Department, not only processed the visa application for a guy who's mentally ill, whose both parents work in intelligence, one as a contractor and the other one as a deputy director of the CIA, and there's no red flags? And then he also has to have a visa to get into Turkey. No red flags. How about Georgia? No red flags. How's that happen?
Oh, well, it doesn't.
Okay.
So, but again, the original thing, I don't think he was part of the Russian service. I think that he was fighting for Ukraine, or he was working with the terrorists. As a matter of fact, that car bomb that just killed that general.
Yep.
That was I don't know if he was Russian or Ukrainian, but he made his escape through Turkey, and Turkey extradited him back to Russia. And he said that he set the car bomb, and it was detonated out of Ukraine. So they're coming and going out of Turkey all the time. So I'm not sure that the whole visa thing is necessarily going to hold up. I don't know how they're getting in and out.
Well,
But
but that even adds more credence to the fact that this guy, well, there are ways to get in and out. When you have people like that work for the CIA that are getting you in and out. Normal people don't go in and out because of the security. And I find it interesting that Turkey sent him back. Yes and no. But that just adds more impetus to the fact that there's something really, really weird going on here. And what I wanted to do more than anything is to walk people through. This is just a normal, although, weird subject, article that is written in the New York Post as if it's factual. And never once does the person writing this story ask any of those questions. Like, how did this guy travel all these different places? And what's weird is they actually, it never even talks about his travels in the actual article. We know it because of the notes underneath the photos. Oh, here's a photo of him in Georgia. Hey, here's a photo of him. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
I don't even think I've seen that article that you're referring to, but I know of the situation.
Yeah, here's another one. It's an Instagram. So his Instagram handle evidently was ZAZA dot BABA137. And it's an Instagram picture of him. And it says Michael Gloss in Turkey before leaving for Russia. So again, you come into the Russian border through a port of entry somewhere. And on your visa or on your passport, because you have to have them stamped, is the exact same route that the people that we researched that did the terrorist act at the Crocus. So you're looking at this guy's passport, and he went on the same circuit. Now, they substituted Georgia for Tajikistan, but he's got the same circuit going on here. And you're like, oh, you're not going to ask any questions? That's weird. So I agree with you 100%. I don't think this guy was fighting on the Russian side. I think he 100%, because it doesn't show. Now, you would think this guy who obviously likes to take pictures and post pictures in his Telegram and all this other stuff, that at some point it would show him, other than this one laying down in this blue and white shirt with this turban on his head. It would actually show him in a military uniform, right? He would be proud in his mentally illness fashion of the fact that he's fighting for Russia and some supposed cause. Not one picture of him actually being in a Russian uniform or with the other paraphernalia that would actually tie him to Russia per se. So I think the whole thing's a bunch of hooky. I don't know what happened to Bridget.
You know, the rainbow family thing is kind of an interesting spin as well. I pulled over right now. I'm driving, but I kind of just did a Yandex on that. And that sounds very creation 1970s, Jim Jones, hippies in the woods, and some interesting stuff on that. I don't know, the liberal school he went to in Maine, that could be interesting, another interesting angle of his personality. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's strange that he played football, it seems, in his Instagram account, but then he goes over to the complete other end of the spectrum with hippie burning American flags, protesting at for abortion rights. It's all over the place.
Oh, okay. So I had not looked up the Rainbow Family. So it was created out of the Vortex One gathering of in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon. You know, like home of Antifa that love the Ukrainians. That's interesting. It also says that they had, ties to San Francisco. And there's an author, Where Have All of the Flower Children Gone? So you're absolutely right. That goes back to the 60s. The first official gathering was held in Colorado in 1972. It said they had 10,000 attendees. The goals is the organization is a loose international affiliation of, so it's a transnational organization of achieving peace and love on earth. This is exactly the kind of organization the CIA would infiltrate based on our research. The Rainbow Family is known for its large annual gathering, which is held in the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management. Holy shit. In addition to these large U.S. annual meetings, they practice throughout the year for world gatherings. Yeah, so this is just like the women's movement and all of those other movements that the CIA has used to further their agenda. Controversy. A outbreak of bloody diarrhea occurred in 1987 gathering in North Carolina, in the remote area of the North Carolina Great Smoky Mountains. Hundreds of people got sick. There was ambulance, blah, 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 poor hygiene, drugs, child neglect, weapons, assault, one kidnapping. All of that happened at that gathering. Another one happened in Big Red Park, where people got a parvovirus. That seems very weird. Let's see. In 1980, 2 young women were shot to death hitchhiking to one of their gatherings in West Virginia. Whoa. Let's see. Oh, they had another gathering where 3 non-fatal stabbings happened in 2014. That same year, a woman was found dead at a rainbow gathering in Utah. There was one in 2015 that had a fatal shooting in Florida. Why have we never heard of this organization? Has anybody heard of this? I've never heard of them. This is crazy. Yeah. So, all right, it just got weirder. So,
Yeah, and Colonel, if I may, and then it says then in the article, this article, it says in April, Gloss wrote in one of the public telegram chats, 3 days ago, I tried to travel to Jerusalem to visit some eco villages. I was deported by Israeli immigration. So not only this guy hits up Turkey and Ukraine and Russia, he's in Israel. Okay. Then he gets deported by Israeli immigration. And his camping backpack was seized. Then he went to Cyprus, okay? And let's see. And then I decided to travel the Balkan gathering instead. This was written in the Rainbow Family Community Chat. Found it.
okay. Yeah, there's something really weird going on here then.
So you guys, I'm familiar with the Rainbow Gatherings. I went to Southern Illinois University, and they actually would come down there until some of the locals burned on their butts, and then they never came back. But they are connected to the Burning Man now. So the Rainbow Gathering turned into Burning Man Festival.
Well, that makes a lot of sense then. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, I know about the Rainbow Gathering. From being in Berlin and Occupy Wall Street in Berlin. And there was this one guy who was like, we're anarchists, right? And there was this one guy that was like, I'm going to the Rainbow Gathering. And we were like, what the fuck? Because anarchists don't like that shit, that hippie shit.
Got it. Also says, I guess they go in there and not necessarily, they're not in these U.S. forest things legally. They go in there and kind of squat for the period of time, because this one article talks about them, another New York Post, just about that organization, saying that they were in the Plumas National Forest and were fined and kicked out and put on a no national forest list for 6 months, blah, blah, blah. So I think a lot of this happens not legally. Yeah, so this is crazy. And again, I'm just going to say this. So who's paying for this man's travel? You don't put a mentally ill kid on a flight to God knows where to get into God knows what trouble. Who would put their kid on a flight internationally if he's mentally ill? That just makes no sense.
Did you see that they even were talking about how he was recruited through the Nepalese?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Really?
Well, that's what I said for that part of that, because Nepal was where the CIA had all of the Uyghurs doing the terrorist training camps.
Right. So, I mean, it just gets more and more like bullshit. You know?
Yeah, so in Georgia, around the time he would have been in Georgia, they're trying to destabilize Georgia and do a regime change. Then he just so happens to be hanging out with Nepalese who, the CIA has an intimate relationship with, having set up terrorist training camps for the Uyghurs there. And then he's in Turkey, where the biggest Gladio program that ever existed, and there's still training camps everywhere. So he just keeps showing up at all of these places. And then he just happens to die in Ukraine. But somehow we're going to associate him with Russia. That's kind of the summary, right? And this guy, again, anybody that can do just a simple internet search is never going to let this kid in their country unless he has some type of people, like State Department people, that are vouching for him to get into all of these countries. Because you and I could not just go ask to go to Russia. You and I probably would have a wait to get into Georgia. I'm fairly certain we could get into Turkey, not that anybody would want to. Been there, done that. But all of these other places, and did it say how long he was in Israel before they figured out that he was a weirdo and kicked him out?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that would be very telling, because that would be the one sanity check of, hey, this guy's up to no good. Again, I think Russia's much more careful, having went through that terror attack, in vetting people coming in with multiple recent military age kind of people, having been to all of the locations that they know are hotbeds of CIA activity. Yeah, I just don't see him getting into Russia at all. Not that he's never been to Russia, because obviously he has a picture there of him, but I don't see him on after having traveled to all of those other places. So he may have been to Russia. He may have been to Russia with his family. But yeah, I don't know. I want to know who's writing the checks. I want to know what bank account he had. I want to know who's writing the checks. I want to know who's making the call to get his visas. Um, just really crazy. Okay, so Fergie 62, thank you for your Rumble rant. Schedule. Oh, and she has to run. So thank you very much. And she reminded everybody to give a thumbs up over on Rumble if you're watching over there. Please do that. I appreciate it. Definitely helps get our shows out to everyone. But anyway, Ron, go ahead.
I think it's interesting that he's wearing a Russian undershirt, that blue and white Russian undershirt. That's something that that Russian military wears under their tunics and dress. Is it possible that he could have kind of gotten into Russia, maybe through Ukraine, like some like snuck into Russia? But to your point, I'm sarcastically answering the question: who puts their kid into all those situations? Obviously, somebody who is a Western intelligence asset trying to build a narrative. Obviously that's the sarcastic answer. But my question is how do we know that he was kind of like crazy, or is that also part of the narrative?
I know. I think it is, because no parent would put a crazy kid. You're not going to fund him to travel around the world by himself. You're just not going to do that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But I found so many blatant disconnects in this story. I felt it was a good example of all of us kind of talking through this narrative and pointing out all of the holes in the story. I think it's a useful exercise for when we read other articles on where you can see holes in the story, because every sentence of this story was another hole for me. And so, again, I just wanted to share that. Southern, go ahead, and then we'll go to Renee.
I don't know if this got connected with Lutheran World Relief. They went into Ukraine. They were funded by USAID and other NGOs and private donations. But Lutheran is the largest of all these NGOs. They have so many different threads where they're set up differently under their filings. So they have hundreds of them, but by far they're the largest.
That's
and
very
they came
interesting.
into Ukraine once the war started and supporting them there. And, obviously CIA has a big foothold there, has been there for a very long time. That makes sense why he could have been involved there. He was buried in the Lutheran church. Funeral there. but his family is all Lutherans, and they said send funding if they wanted to do something, just to send donations to LWR. So the parents are not dumb. They had to know that this NGO, it has the CIA interwoven into it.
Well,
So-
that's very interesting. Of course, they
I
would
just
know
find
because
that very odd.
Yeah.
They put their son, who supposedly has all these mental health issues, into a situation where nobody's managing him. I don't think, if they are, or were rather, not very well. But I checked to see if this foundation ever went into Russia, and I can't find anything. But if he came under the guise of working with LWR, I could see how he got in there. Because how could he get in Russia? Both his parents are involved with the CIA.
I know.
In Russia, one thing Russia's good at is collecting data on everybody. So I just find this very odd. This has been put together like a quilt, I think.
It's a very ugly quilt.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. It's really, really weird. Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, here's another interesting kind of nugget with his school. So he apparently, after public high school, he went to the College of Atlantic in Bar Harbor, Maine. It's on a protected area called the Farms, Beach Hill Farm, and who else? Peggy Rockefeller Farms. Ladies and gentlemen,
What?
are living laboratories for classes and student research. So
What?
I mean, I don't know if any of you all have ever been up to Maine.
I have. I just went last year.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, but lots of hobnobbing, waspy old money up there for sure.
And that's where he went to college.
Yeah, a liberal
Wow.
school. I mean, this may be something for War Hamster. I know y'all have been doing some good
Wow.
uncovering of schools and so forth.
Wow. That is very, very interesting. So he goes to a private, very expensive school. Oh, gosh, that just makes it even weirder.
Maybe this is like a litmus test for anons online to see if we can uncover and connect the dots. Like maybe they're doing a test on us to see how smart we've become. I don't know.
Well, again, that's why I think doing these occasionally are very helpful, to have people listen to the reasoning and pointing out the disconnects in these articles. I think it's critically important. It is a skill. It's a skill we all have to have, especially with all of our media being online now. And like I said, just like several years ago when we found Yandex and its ability to translate articles, obviously one of the major factors in all of this was so much of the real accurate media doesn't happen in the United States. It happens, at least for Gladio, primarily in Europe, but several other places, like even in Asia when we were doing the World Anti-Communist League. You have to have the ability to look at other foreign sources with the ability to translate them expeditiously. And so it just getting used to using it and then using it routinely as part of this search and truth uncover. I think you're right. To me, it's like exercising a muscle, and that's why I do this occasionally, especially when I find a really crazy article like this one. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, it just sounds pretty McCultra, but also, I don't know. I think, the whole someone did something really nefarious and then, they get, I don't know, they tell someone and then they get bribed basically into doing really crazy things. I don't know, Colonel. That seems to be a really big playbook.
Yeah, I agree. So Bridget says she can't talk.
Do
Crap.
we know he's dead?
Huh?
Do we know that he is no longer amongst the living?
I mean, they had a funeral for him. I didn't see his dead body.
Okay.
So, I'm going to assume he's dead. But I don't think he died the way they're telling us he died.
We can give you a list of the charities, Ron, if you'd like to make a donation.
You can do what? Say what you just said again?
Oh, I'll
we'll
dump
give
my
you
whole
one.
crypto. I'll dump all my crypto for that.
Oh, see, there it is. There you go.
I missed it.
She was saying that she could give me all the donations where I could make donations to the families.
Oh,
It was a joke.
okay. Yeah, okay. So, what else is going on? Bridget, you need to get out and come back so you can talk, girlfriend. I want you up here talking.
Okay, I'm gonna try it just for a second.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine now.
Okay, if I get booted, it's not my,
Not your fault.
not my fault. But this totally, how many times have we seen where they use their children as expendable? I hate to say it that way, but that is how they use them. Like they did with in the use of the national parks. I have links to where the not CIA precursor, OSS, actually, I mean, on the park's website, it brags about them using the parks. So all of this just fits completely as he was used, and my guess is that someone found out and he got oxnicked.
So that's actually a very good point, Bridget. Was he being used as a courier? Was he being used ferrying information around from Georgia to Turkey and into Ukraine, and potentially a Russian found him or was tracking him and took him out?
That fits. That fits. And that his cover story, now that he is expired, is that, he was crazy, and blah, 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 blah.
We lost track of our son. He's traveling all of these places. We've never given him any money. We have no idea how he's getting all around the world. And he was, crazy. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but that would be the perfect cover for him being caught. Oh, we didn't know he was there. We didn't know where he was.
Very good point. Very good point, Bridget. An excellent point, actually.
And don't forget, part of his journey, I can't recall which country, but he was dressed in a robe kind of like Jesus-like.
Oh, good God. I missed that one.
Yeah, it's in the photos of the article numerous times. It may be on his Instagram as well.
Oh, yeah, it must have been his Instagram, because I don't see the Jesus robes on this article. Good
I'll
God.
try a screenshot and post it in the pill.
Oh, good gosh.
Even the Rainbow Club thing, that could totally be the cover to get him over there. Because how many times have they used people as missionaries, as
Well, the fact that they said it was a transnational organization, so that it is in, yeah, and like we've said, whether it was the cultural Congress for Cultural Freedom or any of the all of the nefarious African American ones. Remember the whole thing about the DeBose and all of them going to Africa. They were all
nonprofits.
they were all working for the CIA.
Right. How many nonprofits have we linked to the CIA?
Yeah.
So this would be just another cover to get him over there.
And
You
even
know,
if
and
the entire thing is not CIA, it's a legitimate thing. They infiltrate it and then they use it as the cover to move around.
Exactly.
They also use the funds. The CIA uses their funds where they can't get it, because once that money moves from one NGO, they move it to another and another. It's fungible funds, and now it's laundered money.
Right.
It's laundered money.
Yeah. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to insert that, you know, with cults and rainbow gathering people, they will move people around. They will pay for, like, if there's a rich person in it, they'll pay for other people to be moved around. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And they also will house them. Like, oh, come over to, and the reason I know is because that's how activists are too. Like, you can talk to it. Oh, do you know anyone in Japan? Yeah, I know, blah blah, and then you go and stay there.
Well, we've seen, we've seen that
other-
happen in our research where the transnational people do hang out. The travel is much more problematic, especially as much as this guy has traveled.
Yeah, that's harder for me to parse, but maybe he had multiple passports. But the other thing is, I am shocked about the Lutherans. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm so stupid, but I literally am like, what? The Lutherans? I mean, I give them, you know, I donate my used stuff to Lutheran Church. Oh my God.
I think at this point it's safe to say that every single religious organization, to some extent, some more than others, has been infiltrated. They are the perfect venue to move around. All of them are transnational. They're across the world. They go into areas when they are suffering natural disasters, which allows the CIA to craft the reconstruction effort to be the way they want it to be. It's the perfect cover, actually. So I don't know why I didn't click on this before, but one of the articles that was linked to that original New York Post talked about the fact that there was a whole lot of Nepalese people that had joined in this war effort, because I've read where some of them are on the Russian side and some of them are on the Ukrainian side. And also, it says that there were some of the private military contractors had went to Afghanistan and assisted NATO forces in Afghanistan. So that's crazy. But it makes sense because obviously the CIA had a huge presence in Nepal when they were training the Uyghurs to attack China. So it's crazy the stuff you find out when you're researching on these things. It just seems like a never ending pit all along. Go ahead.
Yeah, Colonel, you're raising of the point about the religions all seeming to have, kind of intelligence links in one way or another, without casting aspersions on the entire religious denomination. But it really, really does seem that extent, especially if you read deeply into the JFK assassination literature. I mean, and what's interesting also is sometimes there will be a kind of overlap with the religious affiliation and a college or some sort of academic overlap. I'll give you an example. Earlham College in our beloved town of Richmond, Indiana, Colonel, if that
rings a bell.
Yeah. So they have a religious affiliation with places in Japan. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit vague on but they have a big and very, very old program in Japan, and maybe one or two other places, possibly in Korea as well. And so, the interesting thing about this is they place their people in interesting places in the Japanese government and society as well. And there are other colleges like this, and with these overlapping, often very old missionary associations. So it can create kind of an interesting matrix for intelligence work. And there's one particularly excellent book by this guy named Michael Evica, Evica, on the JFK assassination and the manipulation of, I think he focuses mostly on Protestant churches in intelligence work that were around the JFK assassination. I'll try to find it and post it in the bubble.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, hey, Stellar.
Hello. You guys caught me off guard. I didn't realize you were opening today, so I caught the tail end of it.
That's okay. We were just going over an article that had some crazy stuff that I just wanted to point out to everybody and kind of use it as a live exercise on how to spot bullshit.
I saw that article yesterday. I think I tagged you guys too. I was wondering about that.
Yep. Yeah, there's nothing about that makes sense. So tell me what y'all's thoughts are on Virginia Goffrey's quote unquote suicide.
I personally think it's fishy. What do you think, Bridget? Just, because she got hit by a bus back in March, and then supposedly she was like on the last couple of days of her life, and then you didn't hear much of her, and then all of a sudden she commits suicide when she was supposedly, doing better and things. It's very fishy how all of this stuff seems to be happening, and the timing. It's just the timing.
Go ahead, Bridget.
There were some articles out there, and I looked at some older articles right after she got hit by the bus that said that there's been a long chain of domestic abuse from her husband. Now, I don't know that that's true, or again, that's not, I mean, we've seen, how do I put this? The CIA has a lot of dirty tricks, but it sure has all the hallmarks of Danny Casolaro and how many other situations. And it just so happens that, like Stellar pointed out, she gets hit by a bus. Well, prior to that, she had been beaten up so badly she ended up in the hospital. Then she was hit by a bus. Then she which the doctors told her she only had a few days left because of renal failure. Then she gets better and goes home and then commits suicide. It doesn't fit the pattern of that woman's life, you know?
And I had one more thing because I read her Instagram post. I think she printed it or posted it like the night before. They had MJ Truth had it all over, and well, I'll talk to you guys about that another time too. But MJ Truth had posted stuff, you know, because he started going really into detail about her things. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting. Okay, I spent a lot of time in Europe. Colonel Towner spent a lot of time all over the world. We still refer to like 55 miles an hour, not 110 kilometers per hour or whatever they called it, because that's how she printed in her Instagram thing. And I found that to be very odd as well.
Yeah. Cousin Nick, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that showed up on the Telegram feed that is just a rumor at this point, because I don't like to, I did post it, but, you know, I'm kind of with a grain of salt on it because I haven't seen anything else yet. Apparently, a lot of the Epstein files, apparently all of those Jane Does are disappearing. And Jane Doe 200 had a case against the Epstein estate that somehow just got dropped all of a sudden against the estate. So it did post out this afternoon on the Telegram channels, kind of watching it. Don't know if it means anything.
That's interesting. Southern?
I just want to put a little tail end on the Lutheran charities. They were one of the biggest players in bringing in the illegal immigrants. So Michael Flynn wants them investigated. Elon Musk wants them investigated. They have a crap ton of money and had very little visibility or accountability, which is typical across all these NGOs. But my question is, this young woman, is she the one that it was the prince?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because she got paid a lot of money, if I remember. I just don't find these things that have happened to her normal, but I do know that people that are abused as children or young people tend to marry abusers. So I don't know. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, good point. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. And she was extremely abused, like not just a little bit. And it's just like, it's bizarre. It's like a magnet. And from my information, it's like a bizarre process. You have to like really, really clean yourself, but it's very, very difficult so that you're not a magnet to it. It's just bizarre. So hard to talk about even. But the other thing I wanted to say was, do y'all remember the whistleblower for Chat GPT, who they said suicided himself? I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I can look it up. I don't like to talk about the dead without saying their name, but do you guys remember that?
Yes. Yes, he had blood all over his apartment.
Yeah, he didn't commit suicide.
No. Yeah, because they had blood in multiple rooms. If you kill yourself, you don't move from room to room. So that definitely was not a suicide. But we found lots of ones that are not suicides. So,
I
Elle,
was kind of being sarcastic.
I know. Elle, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Virginia was also in the photo giving Bill Clinton a massage, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It almost seems like maybe some of that stuff is going to get let loose or whatever, or maybe opened or disclosed. And because it seems like they have, I mean, I think was it Cousin It or was it Bridget that was talking about, there's been quite a few of these ladies that are getting unalived.
Yeah.
Well, we know this is what they do, and my friend Monica Peterson was investigating the Clinton Foundation in Haiti. She's in the 4th episode of The Fall of Cabal, and she was suicided. One of the, she was the biggest humanitarian I've ever met. She, focused her life on investigating human trafficking. So there's an interesting story behind that as well. Her professor at DU, Claude Diestra, he used to work for DynCorp, who was a government contractor who actually got busted for human trafficking. And then he started his job at DU in the department that was working on investigating human trafficking that Monica was studying. She was basically studying under him. And at her memorial, he said he was going to release all of her research, and of course he never did. And she had extensive research about what was going on in Haiti.
That's crazy. Southern, go ahead.
I apologize. Half of my education was in psych and behavioral. People, when they commit suicide, don't want to leave a mess. A lot of times they'll have a tarp down or plastic or something because they don't want to create a mess for whoever finds them. It's kind of locked into the behavior. They don't want to be a bother. And I'm just saying it very simply. So when they said his blood was everywhere, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
He did not commit suicide.
Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we should leave out the option of witness protection because that could be a marker, saying suicided. It could be a marker that they are about to unravel more Epstein information.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, obviously, we have no way of being able to verify that. It may be that because of the recent bus incident that people did provide her protection. You just never know. Carrie, go ahead.
Well, I think what do you say, the 30,000 foot view?
Yep.
Maybe a communication that you pieces of garbage better keep your mouths shut.
I mean, that obviously is their the way they operate. That's what they do. But at some point, we'd like to think that some of those people are being neutralized and they're not able to continue doing what they have done in the past. But that's why I've always cautioned everybody that as we're going through this process of trying to clean everything up, the enemy always gets a vote. There's still going to be bad things that happen. What they're trying to do is minimize the bad thing while at the same time they're on a timeline in order to get things dismantled. So it's kind of a dicey road, and people just need to, obviously be paying attention to what's going on, their surroundings and everything else, especially if they're out in front and part of this awakening, this exposure or whatever. And that's the reason why all of these people that Trump has hired into the administration, almost all of them have security. And I mean, think about that for a second. Just let that sink in, that in order to work in the United States government, when you're trying to work for the people, you require security. That, to me, is the biggest indictment of our country that you could have. That if you're the Secretary of Homeland Defense, think about that. You're the Secretary of Homeland Defense and you require 24-hour security. You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You're there to help people and you require 24-hour security so that you can help people. Again, this is the kind of stuff they don't want us to think about. This is the kind of stuff they don't want us to talk about. There is absolutely a rotten, evil force that is operating when, in order to serve your government, you require security. Southern?
I remember this, and I just looked it up. Kash Patel had inquired to have a private security detail because he wasn't sure which FBI agents he could trust.
Yeah.
As he sought understanding of who were they, et cetera, and it was actually in the news. It was reported by NBC News, along with the Wall Street Journal, and now just think about that one, Colonel.
Yeah, I mean, the president of the United States has his own personal security. While the outer ring is Secret Service, Trump has his own personal security. Think about that.
Yeah, and Elon had private security, but Trump added to his security.
Yeah, that's that's why when I get to this point where people are talking about the stuff that happens over there, the stuff that happens in third world countries, they have no awareness of what is happening because they still have blinders on of all of the crazy things. And the same thing is true with these recent arrests of the judges. That they didn't just start being corrupt. So how many, and I would love for somebody to do that, to take either one of the judges, the guy that had the frickin' gang members living in his house, giving them weapons, or the one that was helping him out the side door while his victims are in the courtroom. Either one of those judges, if you go back and you look at their history and how they've ruled on cases, they didn't just start being corrupt. There's a whole bunch of them around. And again, the entire country went apeshit crazy when a few people were talking about the Brazilian Supreme Court and the Brazilian judicial, and then the court over in Romania and several of the other ones. Oh my God, that's tyranny. And I'm looking around going, I'm sorry, have you looked in your own backyard? It's just crazy to me that people don't. Oh yeah, Mayor Sarge says there's armed guards at Social Security office. So let me just Mayor Sarge. Not only are there armed guards, but I can understand why there's armed guards at the Social Security office. Let me just tell you a little story here. Recently, my husband filed for his Social Security, and months went by and he didn't hear anything. And you were supposed to, within 30 days, get an email. He got nothing. So I told him to drive across town and go to the Social Security office. So he does. And because he didn't have an appointment, because we didn't know you had to have an appointment, he waits there for like 2 hours. So he finally gets called up to the window. And the guy basically tells him he has to have an appointment. And he's like, no, I don't have to have an appointment. I need you to tell me why I have not gotten a response. And so finally the guy looks in the system and he goes, well, you have to verify your identity. Now, the irony of that statement alone, after we just found out that they're sending Social Security all over the fucking world, right? They're sending Social Security to everybody, billions and billions and billions of dollars. But my husband has to provide an ID in order to get his started because he paid in his entire fucking life for it. Okay, so all irony aside, he pulls out his ID card. He's like, oh, well, you have to have an appointment. He goes, I'm not coming back. You're going to take a copy of my ID card. So he did. So he comes home and he waits like 3 more weeks and he logs on to see if anything happened, and nothing had happened. And I said, so call them. So as soon as he called them, then they tell him that, something about, oh shoot, what did they tell him? Yes, we got your ID, but you got marked for like a second verification process. And so he's like, okay, well, what do you need for that? Oh, well, I can't do that. That's done over in some other office. That's not done. And he goes, well, I'll go back down to my office, the local office. And he goes, oh, it's not being done there. It's being done at a different location. So there's nothing I can do. But it'll be done soon. So literally that day after he got off the phone, it was approved. And we got an email like 5 days later that said that it was approved. So I can understand, Mayor Sarge, why they would need armed people at the local Social Security office, because when you've paid in the entire time you've been working for your entire life, and you find out recently that they've been sending our money all over the world, that you might get a little pissed off when they tell you that you have to provide them an ID card. Just saying. Stellar, go ahead.
I think that it's good because a lot of these judges that are, because they're owned by the cartels. I mean, I've seen maps of like how the states are separated through. I mean, I do believe that, like California is owned by several of the Mexican cartels or South American or whatever, because, it just seems like even here in Nevada, it just seems like a lot of these judges are owned by these other entities, maybe, just seems like there's a lot of shady stuff going on, or they're, if you want to say Soros or whomever, the international syndicates, judicial system type of a thing is kind of how I looked at it and stuff. And it's nice seeing that they're, we've gotten 2 judges. Hopefully there'll be more, because that seems like, how would we even be able to bring anyone to trial when we have faulty courts? Because you can only try them once. You can't do it twice for the same thing, like going to a different court to say, okay, well, this judge is bad, we're going to take him over to this court instead, type of a thing, So it's good that they're cleaning out the judges, because, the due process has to be done in this. For these people, the ones that are illegal, they just need to get the heck out of here. They have no rights. They broke the law to come in here. They just need to go. But I'm talking about like regular, the bad ones, like, when we get to the point of, going through the courts and stuff like that, with a lot of these bad people, I don't care if they're fair trial. Well, they have to be fair, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Please. Yes, I know. Sunshine, go ahead.
Yeah, we just went through the same thing with my husband with Social Security, exact same thing. And not only that, but we had to jump through hoops where, we come down here to Florida every winter and we just have our mail forwarded. Well, you can't do that anymore now without showing ID, because people are stopping your mail, and then they get mortgages, they get loans, they get credit cards, and you're not getting your mail because they're getting your mail. And so they're fraudulently charging all this stuff up. In the meantime, you're wondering where your mail is at. Well, they've stopped your mail. So now you have to go in and do it in person and show ID.
But not to vote, just to get your mail.
Correct. Mail and Social Security.
Yeah. MC Modern over on Rumble said that he was an armed guard at Social Security office in Santa Fe years ago. Another one, Thor at the Door, said, I went through all of that months ago to become his aunt's payee representative. I told them the same thing, that all the incomers were getting Social Security numbers too. Let's see. We will be seeing a lot of these corrupt judges thrown off the bench. I do hope so. That's for sure. Let's see. Southern, go ahead, and then we'll go to Ron.
Speaking of these judges, especially the ones that were going after Trump, we did a deep dive on their families, their spouses, their children, their sisters, brothers, in-laws. They're all tagged into NGOs. making money.
Yep.
Making a lot of money. Then I found out legally they only have to spend 10% of it. And I could not figure out what was going on with FEMA because we did hear about the $200 million. What they did was they paid the vendors. The vendors just didn't come. Think about that one.
Yeah.
Can't even pick the right ones. Also about the IRS. Remember the two whistleblowers in court about Hunter Biden?
Yep.
Where they weren't allowed to look at his case and do the right job.
Right.
And they became whistleblowers. There was one guy a little bit taller, thinner. The other guy a little bit older. His boss wanted to fire him. And when they were over there, he was walking them around, the older guy, and explain why things weren't getting done, what the problems were, all kinds of things. And his manager wanted to fire him. So it turned out Elon worked with Trump, and I don't know who's running the IRS, but the manager was fired. He's gotten his job, which I just think it's karma.
Right.
But he also dropped a bomb. He says, yeah, when you call the IRS in the month of December, nobody's here. They take off the whole month. And then the people sitting at their desk, he took them down to the canteen. They had tons of paperback books, candy and chips and all kinds of stuff. And when he walked upstairs, obviously they did not recognize Elon because there was no, trying to look like you were working. They were sitting there reading paperback books. And they were tired of dealing with customers and their attitudes on the phone. That was the IRS that we had, guys, just to let you know.
Well, that's better than the one woman that was the 911 caller that said she'd hung up on over 1,000 people because she didn't want to listen to them at the 911 distribution center. Ron,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Ron, go ahead.
Hey, I don't want it to be off topic, but in relation to what you were talking about with Social Security and mail not being able to be forwarded and all of that stuff, I just want to be very careful, especially right now.
You're breaking up, Ron. You're breaking up.
A little bit bad.
No, you're breaking up really bad.
Come right back.
Okay. Anybody else?
One more thing. I am now Social Security, and when I got my check, now I had been a business owner every year except for the first year after college, so I always had to pay Social Security twice for myself, pay for me, and then pay for it to the government because I'm an employee of the company. Okay, so when I got my first check, what I thought it would be was not. Then I got the second, and I got the third, and I said, there's something wrong here. And I said, well, I'll look at the next one. Then all of a sudden, I got this urgent, sign it off piece of mail. I opened it up. It was a big fat check. They said, we did not do the whatever correctly, but they have been correct moving forward. But I was just amazed at how much they screwed that up. So I think a lot of people have false starts and weird things. So if you question anything, follow through on it. The one thing now about doing the ID, Colonel, this is a recent change because when Doge went through IRS, they found out 40% of the fraud was fraudsters calling in, pretending to be another Social Security recipient and said, I'm moving. And this is my new address. This is where I want my check to go to, blah, blah, blah. 40% of the fraud was done that way. So they put in a new platform on how they're going to do that with AI and some other steps. So this is something they've recognized. I am just trying to imagine 40% of that was the fraud. And Elon Musk also said, we have someone that's got over 40,000 fraudulent Social Security numbers. They're making money on it. And he said, I will expect an arrest in the next couple weeks. So I'm hoping that's true.
Yeah, me too. Mayor Sarge says the dentist is more fun than the DMV. Ron, go ahead.
Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Okay. So just kind of a little bit of a public service announcement for the audience. You know, you're talking about all the fraud and the you know, you talking about your nightmare stories with the Social Security and whatnot. You know, a lot of this stuff, there's a lot of things that are really nasty happening with like house deeds, with, you know, people being able to clone your phones. And I know a lot of people use the 2-factor authentication stuff with your mobile devices. You know, if people have your information, they can actually clone your device and get into a lot of the things that you have. So it's very important, guys, that you keep your stuff locked down. This is really much more of a public service announcement, but it goes along with the things that you're talking about. You know, we live in a world that's extraordinarily fraudulent, and you know, I don't want to. You know, my mom just did a reverse mortgage, and the lady she was talking to that helped her do it said that they've heard horror stories about people trying to do reverse mortgages, but the deed to their house is already into somebody else's name because of the fraudulent stuff that's going on out there. So you guys need to be really, really careful and be on top of your paperwork and your documents and just your affairs in general. And I just wanted to make that as a little bit of a public service announcement in the event that you guys just aren't aware of things like that.
Got it. Okay. Renee, go ahead.
Just a quick question for all. Curious of your response of the blue suit at the funeral of the Pope at the Vatican. Thank you, Cousin It, for sharing that video today. Who was that? The mafioso guy sharing his story and the connections with the
Cousin
Vatican
It
and all that. But just curious of everybody's thoughts. You know, lots going on at the Vatican, the funeral, Zelensky, Trump, blue suit. Was just kind of curious of thoughts on that, if you're up for it.
Well, it was very interesting to me because of how it dovetailed into all of the stuff in Gladio and the church's role in the stuff that we've discovered. And then you're hearing the guy from the mafia side that's running the drugs, you know, networks inside the United States, version of the same thing. And, you know, the owning of Hollywood and all of that other stuff. It was, it's just weird coming across all of this stuff now that we have the foundation laid about what Operation Gladio is, and you get affirmation after affirmation after affirmation from all walks of life. You know, we've heard from the next book that we're going to do, Kevin Shipp's book. You're going to hear an actual CIA officer that they tried to kill that talks about, and he actually does mention Operation Gladio. The amount of material that we've accumulated, and you know, obviously this was a very old thing, but it dovetails into everything that we've discovered. I think probably the most notable thing, and I don't mean this from a religious, I'm not Catholic, you guys know that, is the fact that this Pope chose to be not buried at the Vatican, but buried at that other church. And just from a secular standpoint, that church's focus is on Mary. So and I know about all of the secular opinions of the position that Mary plays in the Catholic Church. And I know how Catholics feel about that. We had a whole big row about that over on True Social a long time ago. So I just find that a very interesting kind of period at the end of his life, or an exclamation point maybe, instead of a period. Anybody else has any thoughts on that? I did want to read this if no one else has anything. The judge, since we were just talking about the judge, Margot Cleveland over on X has probably been the most on top of that case of any lawyer that's on X. And obviously she's a professor of law as well. And she just posted in response to Ari Fletcher. And this is what she said. And everyone should be pissed that the judge helped the illegal alien escape by stealthily adjourning the criminal case against him while the prosecutor was waiting for the case to be called, and his victim sat in the courtroom with a representative from victim support for their comfort. And, obviously that was abuse, which was what the whole court case was all about. So he committed assault on 2 people, and they were all in the courtroom waiting for the case to be called. She adjourns the case and helps him escape. That, to me, that bitch needs to be in Gitmo. She should never ever see the light of day again. That's just crazy. Anybody have any other thoughts on that?
I think it just really shows how corrupt our judicial system is. I mean, I can't believe that would happen right before our eyes.
Yeah. It's to me, it's just crazy. Carrie, go ahead.
Well, I think, humans made a system, law, a long time ago. The Mesopotamians developed it as they developed science and other things. Cities made that, and people look to law as like, I don't want to go on and on about it, but I've been to conferences where lawyers are screaming, it's just a system. It's just a system. You can't look to it as some ultimate answer for life. It's just, it doesn't work. That's crazy.
Well, I don't think we're looking at it as a solution to life. We are looking at it as a system to adjudicate when wrongs are done to other people.
I know, but this guy at the conference, I don't remember his name exactly, but he, it's just, I'm saying in your thought process, like, it's just the old adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket kind of idea, and we can develop other systems, but we're banned from that. But also, Operation Gladio International Syndicate is making crazy people. That's a big job of theirs. Development of crazy ass people. And that judge is a crazy ass person. Crazy. Insane. Completely insane.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. All along, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, we need to see kind of long-term, like the emphasis on the judicial branch and the judges. And, here in New York, they're all flown out to the Aspen Institute. And it's just, there's no investigation on that at all. I only know because my sister's friend is a judge, and it seems pretty systemic. What the heck is going on out there? We need to look deeper into the Aspen Institute. But also, I just want to make just raise this point about the judicial branch is getting, like, it's in the news incredible amount, especially on MSNBC. And why is that? Because our legislative branch, getting back to the Constitution, that's supposed to be the democratic ingredient of government. And what the hell are they doing? They're doing absolutely nothing but scaring the population 6 ways from Sunday on behalf of the CIA. So it's like the legislative branch, I mean, think of it. They're supposed to make laws for all of the people. And yet the judicial branch is one case at a time. Who benefits from that? Who benefits from when everything is one case at a time and there's no orators representing that all of the people can hear? as was happening for some periods like in 1968 when we had an actual senator from New York who was replaced by a mute named Kristen Gillibrand. And yet the Democrats are now, they do all of their business in the most aristocratic branch of our mixed government, the judicial. And it makes sense because they've become, the party of absolute corporate money, even more possibly than the Republicans, which were always seen that way. And it's, the disparity, the long-term degeneration of the legislative branch versus the emphasis instead on the judicial branch is really, really worth noting, I think.
Cool. Cousinette? Cousinette?
Cousinette.
Oh, stupid phone. Stupid phone. I just texted over to you, and I don't see her in the chat. But Sonia, I think you pronounce it Sonia. She's one of the Russian journalists that actually published that article about that kid.
Uh-huh.
And she's been listening in, and I don't know if she speaks English and if she's able to actually come on up and grab a mic and maybe give some more information.
Cool.
Not trying to put her on the spot or anything.
But you did. Yep, well, hopefully she will. Jillian, did you have something you wanted to add? Where'd she go? Well, she came up and then she's gone. I don't know if they're kicking people out of our space or what. Oh.
I know I got booted out.
Well, she just came back up. Let's see, Julian. There was an error adding Jillian. So let me drop Renee down for just a second and see if I can bring Jillian up. We may have too many. Oh, there she is. Okay. So go ahead, Jillian.
Hey, sorry about that. Did you say Ari Flesher earlier?
Yeah, that Margaret, Margot Cleveland was responding to a comment he made about that judge.
Oh, okay. I remembered he was like the White House.
Yes.
Something during 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was the lawyer for the defendant that stuck out the back. I was
No. Yeah, no.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
That was my question.
Sure. Anybody else? All right. Well, I think we probably covered it all. And I don't know if we can get that reporter up that Cousinette spotted down in the comments, but I appreciate you guys all being here and going through this article and kind of just our live on stream fielding of information. And I just think this skill that we have collectively created in our group of doing research, and I see Illini down there, and he's kind of our cleanup hitter that comes along and tries to accumulate the valid argument to present to non-believers. And so I just love the team that we've created here, the research capabilities of everybody. And I love working with you guys. And I would love to do these more often. Definitely on the weekend where we could pick a topic that is either a piece of the book that we're currently reviewing, and kind of just do a deep dive into that, because I think that this, especially over the next year, this skill is going to be second to none for all of us to help everybody around us be able to ferret through all of the garbage that gets printed every day and spot things that, one of those things where you say say something if you see something. When you see an article that makes absolutely no sense, you know that you're being lied to now. And I think that is a new arrow in our quiver that most of us, prior to whatever your wake up moment was, didn't have that skill. And a lot of us didn't know all of the tools that we could use to find the information. And I think that's why collectively going through these things and looking at where other people look for information is so critically important. So thanks everybody for joining the session tonight. I had a blast doing it, and thanks for spending your Saturday evening with us going through all of this information. So God bless all of you. Have a wonderful Sunday, and we will be back on Monday to finish up our book. We should be finished this week. The rest of the chapters are fairly short. We might even be able to get through a couple a day, but some very interesting information in it. And then we'll start our Kevin Shipp book. Take care, everybody. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us over here on Rumble. I appreciate it. Thanks to our new Thor at the Door. Glad you have joined us. Thor at the Door was at, I've already shared with everybody that follows me, the meeting that I went to on Thursday and gave the presentation. He was there. And so I was telling everybody where to find us on Rumble and on X. And so I'm glad you made it. Nice having you here. And let's see what else. Oh, you guys are having a conversation about fossil fuels. I'm not even going there tonight. God bless you guys. Take care. I'll see you back at Monday at 4.